Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
Here, tell us about courage, Phil. Tell us about courage.
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I'm your host tonight, Caleb, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And since it's me hosting, I'm going to assume that you probably already guessed that Wes is not here. He is not actually working tonight. He is instead cleaning up throw up from his kids, which is worse.
Yeah,
I'd much rather work than do that, personally.
Yes. You don't get paid for that.
Oh, ain't that the truth? No amount of money would make it worth it for me. Like, nurses, I don't know how they, do anything that they do. Yeah. So, mad props to them and parents everywhere dealing with pukey kids. So, good fortune be upon all of you. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and cover the tech news this past week because we are not doctors or epidemiologists, and we don't really know anything about sickness, except for Google, who have been down with the sickness if the sickness is announcing new phones. How's that for a segue? Landon, take it away.
I saw that coming, and I just kept thinking in my mind, please don't. And then you didn't.
Look, it was a freight train. There was clearly a bridge out. I just had to see what happened.
Oh, it fell and exploded, just like in the movies.
So much wreckage.
Anyways, Google had their annual Made by Google event this past week. I think this is the earliest it's ever happened. It's always in October, but it has previously been later in the month, from what I remember. But along with that comes new phones, which is always fun.
Yes.
And we already knew pretty much everything about these phones because Google is the worst when it comes to keeping things under wraps to the point that they usually announce these things beforehand. Well, kind of announce these things beforehand, which they did with these as well.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. I've seen multiple videos start off with people talking about the event saying, Google surprised us with all this new stuff that I don't know how they kept it under wraps. And they're like, you'll probably get a big, strong hint of all the sarcasm I just laid down there. Because, yes, Google is just really bad at keeping things secret.
Yeah.
Although, well, I guess I can't even say that if any of this was kept under wraps because I just don't look at most rumors because I just don't care beforehand.
Yeah.
So maybe all of this had come out. I don't know. But they did, and even Google kind of played around with this because the start of their event was a little video of people just gossiping about the new Pixel phone. They're like, "What? Did you hear about this or whatnot?" And it's like, yeah, we did. But then the best part though was at the very end was this guy and girl were sitting at in a little coffee shop, and the guy was like, "Do you actually believe all that?" And they just start laughing, and the girl looks at the camera and she's like, "Well, let's see." And then the guy's like, "Who are you talking to?" That was pretty funny. But that was the start of the event. So let's go through what they talked about in the order they talked about it because they go from the least important to the most important. So that's how I want to go through it.
Nice.
First thing they talked about was a little update that is coming to Pixel Buds Pro. Not new hardware. Well, that's not entirely true. They're coming out with new colors to match the new colors of the phones.
Yes.
But they're not a Pixel, an update to the Pixel Buds Pro.
Right.
It's just a firmware update that's coming. But they are going to be getting improved clear call technology, as they call it, which helps take out background noise. And this is going to be, it just automatically turns on. So when you're on a phone call, it just automatically clears up the conversation, which is nice. They're adding what they called Bluetooth super wideband, which is supposed to help with this clear call technology. I don't know exactly what this super wideband stuff does, but that's the wording that they gave. And we're going to get to some of the naming that they came up with because some of it's just awful. But this is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing they did is very similar to what Apple did with transparency mode. If you start talking, it'll automatically turn on transparency mode. And then after you stop, it will turn it off. And it also does pause whatever you're listening to, which is nice. But from what I have heard, people that have tested this out, it takes about a second and a half or so after you start talking, or if it does hear somebody else talking, to pause your music and turn on transparency mode. So it's worse if somebody comes up to you and starts talking. You might miss the first little bit of what they say, but it eventually does work. It just so maybe down the road it can get a little faster. I understand why it does take a little bit because it's got to recognize, oh wait, there is a person talking. Now we should stop what we're doing.
Well, see, we all just need to get in the habit of starting conversations with other people the same way that we start conversations with the digital assistant on our phone. Like you just say, hey, so-and-so's name, and then you pause for a second before you ask your question so that their headphones have a chance to turn on transparency mode. That's the play here.
Maybe we should start doing it. I prefer, just walking up and smacking them upside the head to get their attention. But, that doesn't pause their music. So,
I mean, if it knocks one of the headphones out, then it does.
Oh,
so.
You got to hit him a little harder. That's what it is.
Yeah, just hit him harder.
Anyways, that's some of the updates coming to Pixel Buds Pro. They did announce a new update coming to the Pixel Fold, which is called Dual Screen Interpreter Mode, which is actually really cool. So if you open the device, you look at one side, and the person you're talking to will see the other side of the screen, and you can be reading whatever each other is saying in their own language on your display, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So instead of having to share the phone back and forth with the screen and whatnot, it can just show it on both sides of the phone. Kind of cool.
Yeah. No, that's decent.
All right. The next thing that they went into was the Pixel Watch 2. And this is very similar to the Pixel Watch 1.
Yeah.
In design. But let's go through some of the specs here. So it's got the same 41 millimeter case that the Pixel 1 has. It comes in matte black, polished silver, or champagne gold, which I believe are the same colors that were there before. It does have an upgraded processor. It's the new Snapdragon W5 chip, which is a quad-core processor, and they claim it's going to be a lot faster and more efficient, which is good. They're also claiming that this will get up to 24 hours of battery with always-on display on.
Yeah.
So if you turn that off, in theory, it'll get more than that.
Even longer.
Which is good. Because that was one thing I always heard about the first generation Pixel Watch was the battery was just not great.
Yeah.
They updated some charging on this thing. It now no longer has wireless charging, which is unfortunate. It is a pin-based charging mechanism, so you have to have it lined up correctly now, which is unfortunate. But the benefits to that is it can charge faster and more efficiently, so it won't get as hot, which is nice. Not that it got really hot before, but it does charge faster. They're saying you can get 12 hours of battery out of this in only 30 minutes. So that's really nice. So especially if you're the type of person that wears your watch to sleep, to do some sleep tracking, you can wear it to bed, wake up in the morning as you're getting ready, throw it on the charger for however 30 minutes or whatever it takes you to get ready, and you've got a day's worth of battery ready to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and with 24 hours of screen, with the always-on display on, that really is just you wake up in the morning and you're ready to go hop in the shower and get ready, whatever. You just toss it on the charger, 30 minutes, then put it on after breakfast, and away you go. And that's your 24 hours. It'll get you through to the next morning, theoretically.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's a good, solid use case. With the Apple Watch, if you want to use that for sleep tracking, you sort of have to have a 30-minute charging time in the morning and the evening before bed. so that it'll get you through the night, and then you have to top it up again in the morning so it'll get you through the day. So, which is, also fine. You can work that into your schedule, but this is just a little bit easier.
Yeah. So obviously we'll have to wait for reviews to see if this does check out.
Is real. Yeah.
But so far what they're saying is going to be better, which is nice.
Yeah.
They did add a new feature called Safety Check. Basically what this is, like, you can set a time. Like if you say you're going to go on a hike and you think it's going to take you about 30 minutes or whatever, you can set a time. And if you don't check in after this time has gone off, then it will automatically set or send a notification to specified contacts, which is really, and it'll also give your location for those contacts as well, which is really nice. And it also, they did say, I don't know exactly how this will work. I would assume that if you don't have the LTE version, it will just use your phone to send those notifications. But they did mention that even if you have the LTE version and you haven't set the watch up specifically with a plan, it will still use the data on there to send notifications.
Oh.
So that is really nice.
Yeah.
It does give you a little bit of incentive to buy the LTE version, which is $50 more, but
that's not a huge price differential, honestly. So.
No, it's really not. The watch, as we're talking about, it does start at $350, which is the same price as it was previously. So $400 gets you the LTE version. That price is on par with most of these other smartwatches that in the specs range of what you're getting. So, that's not horrible. I do like that feature, though. The safety check thing is really cool.
Yeah.
They updated some other sensors on it with a new, more accurate heart sensor. They're claiming 40% more accurate. That's what they're saying. And it can check, it checks multiple locations on your wrist or wherever you have it placed for that heartbeat sensor or heartbeat or for the heart rate that you're looking for. So it gives you that more accurate. They also added a skin temperature sensor for sleep tracking, which is basically the same thing that Apple did with the new Apple Watch.
Yep.
And then they also added this other sensor. They called it the continuous electrodermal activity sensor. Basically what this does is it helps detect moments when your body is showing signs of stress and things, which is also very similar to what Apple did. And then if this happens, it can offer you ways to de-stress and different stuff like that. So they're just trying to get more on par with what Apple is doing with the Apple Watch, which is good because there's not a lot of smartwatches that are on par with Apple.
With the Apple Watch. Yeah.
So I'm liking what they're doing. I still don't love the design of the watch. It's not, I like a round watch, but the way this is, it's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Also, the bezel is still quite large, so there's that.
Yeah. It looks a little bit more like a Mentos than it looks like a watch, and I feel like that's the issue,
Yes. If they were to put this in the same color as the new Pro phone, that blue that they have, it would definitely be a Mento.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be perfect. No, it's like the rounded edges and stuff harkens to the Apple Watch design, which is a very successful design. But I think it's successful because it's square.
Yeah.
Just round. Give me kind of a squared off design. Make it look like an actual watch, guys. Like you've made a losange. That's not. I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at other companies that have been making smartwatches for longer than Google has, that have the same round design, like the edges are more squared off. Like if you look at Fossils, it's got more of a squared off edge with a round face. Samsung is the same way. And even traditional watches have a round display or watch face, and the edges are more squared off just because they're more durable for one. And it's just a tried and true design that's worked forever. Yeah. So, I kind of get what Google was going for. They're going for something that looks elegant, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Looks like a flying saucer. That's what we're going for.
Yes. It looks
Area
like
51.
It looks like a AirTag on your wrist. but two of them
That's
stuck
it.
together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Design is subjective. I'm sure people like it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Wes, I believe, likes his, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yep.
design is definitely subjective because, I mean, I don't love the look of the Apple Watch. It's not my favorite, but
Yeah.
it's not ugly. It's just not great, in my opinion. But there
Yeah.
are people
No,
that
that's fair.
love the look of the Apple Watch, and that's fine.
Yep. For reasons. I don't know.
Yep, I don't know what those reasons are, but they're there.
Yeah.
They also mentioned that the aluminum on the Pixel Watch 2 is all 100% recycled, and that goes for all of the hardware they announced. The phones have 100% recycled aluminum, which is good. And I had to mention this. They did talk about sustainability when it,
Right.
like just like Apple did, but they did it in about 3 minutes. Said about the same
Yeah.
same amount of things. They did say that they have the same goal for net zero emissions by 2030. But they, like I said, it was about 3 minutes of this 1 hour long event.
Yep.
And that's all it needed to be. They mentioned, so like I said, the 100% recycled aluminum in all their phones and all their watches, and plastic free packaging in all of their devices, which is also good. But yeah, it took them about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Not 20.
And it's like, in those ways, it's like, okay, Apple is a little bit ahead of them because they're like, in addition, they've been shipping plastic-free packaging with their stuff for a couple of years now. Pretty much all of their things ship in primarily paper-based, totally 100% recyclable packaging, which is really cool, actually. Like, I really like taking apart their stuff, and I'm like, you made this out of cardboard.
Yeah.
Like, let me see the origami people that you employ to do this because it's nifty. But so yeah, they're a little bit ahead. They've got a fully carbon neutral product, just the watch, but it's something, and that's great. But yeah, 3 to 5 minutes. I feel like you could have said all of that in 3 to 5 minutes. Did not need to take 20. So good job on that, Google. Like, yeah, you are playing catch up and actually implementing some of this stuff, but the goal is the same. Progress is being made, and it doesn't sound like you're virtue signaling every time you bring it up, which is great.
Like, I actually, the first time I watched it, I completely forgot that they did all that. And in my going back and taking notes on it, that's when I'm like, oh, they did mention that. That's right.
Yeah.
Because I forgot about it. All right. Now, the next thing they moved on to was the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. I want to go over the specs on both of these phones first. So, the Pixel 8, both of these phones, rather, have the new Google Tensor G3 chip inside, which is obviously going to be faster. But the biggest thing that they talked about was the machine learning and AI stuff, because that's Google. They are definitely the company that is heavily reliant on software. And I mean, it's kind of funny because for years it was always that, like, Apple's thing was never, oh, look at our hardware, it does all this stuff. It was always the software, and which was just good. It worked. And that's very much what Google has turned into as well. It's like, our hardware may not be on paper as good as what some other hardware is, but because of what we're doing on the software side of things, it runs as good or better than what other hardware does, which is true for both Google and Apple, and that's fine. So the Pixel 8 has 8 gigs of RAM, comes with 128 or 256 gigs of storage, has a slightly larger battery than the Pixel 7 at 4575 milliamp hours. It's launching with Android 14, obviously. It has a 10.5 megapixel selfie camera, and then on the back it's got a 50 megapixel wide angle sensor and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. It's got a 6.2 inch display, which is actually slightly smaller than the Pixel 7, which had a 6.3 inch display. So they're getting slightly closer to what Caleb wants in a phone, but not a whole lot closer.
They're moving way too slow. That's nope.
At 0.1 every year, it'll be 5 years before they get down to where you want.
Oh gosh, yeah, yep.
This display is also 1080 by 2400 pixels, which is perfectly fine. And it does have Wi-Fi 7 capabilities, which, again, as we mentioned before, is not yet fully, it's set out.
Yeah. It is. From what I understand, Wi-Fi 7 at this point is basically just Wi-Fi 6E, except like we decided it's better. Like I don't. Nobody has said why it's better than Wi-Fi 6E. Like just okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah. And the biggest update to this phone, in my opinion, hardware-wise, is the display. It is a OLED display that can run at either 60 hertz or, Apple, you're listening, 120 hertz. Because you're paying this much for a phone, you should have 120 hertz display.
You should. You sure should.
I mean, I do like that it gives you the option if you want to take it back down to 60, but don't.
Sure.
Just keep it at 120 hertz.
It's not worth it.
Much better experience.
You save a small amount of battery life. It's just just run the higher refresh rate. It's okay.
Yeah. All right, now on to the Pixel 8 Pro. It has 12 gigs of RAM, comes with 128, 256, 512, or 1 terabyte of storage. Has a, again, slightly larger 5050 milliamp hour battery. On the front has the same 10.5 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, it's got the 50 megapixel wide angle sensor, a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 48 megapixel telephoto camera. It has a 6.7 inch display, which is an LTPO display that can go from 1 hertz to 120 hertz. So, which, I mean, that I believe the Pixel 7 Pro had that same as last year, or same as this one, but I can't remember for sure. Either way, it is very nice to have. I think both of these phones are really good.
Yeah. My favorite useless design spec for both of them is that the regular Pixel 8 matches Apple's phone's brightness of 2000 nits.
Yes.
Which is great. What's even better is that the Pro does 2400.
Yes, I was getting to that. That's
peak brightness HDR. That's like, because I mean, in all other ways, these screens are pretty darn equivalent to what Apple puts on the iPhones.
Right.
Other than the fact that, yes, the Pixel 8 does go up to 120 hertz, which is objectively the same thing, like that should be what's normal.
Should be, yes.
But otherwise, they're very comparable to Apple's displays. But then it's like, just a little bit brighter. Just a little bit brighter. I love it.
Yeah, I do like that. The best part, the worst part about these displays, though, is the name that Google gave them.
Oh yeah, they had to follow Apple in this way as well and come up with a stupid marketing name just for their display.
Stupid. And like, as much as I think that Apple, like the Retina display, that's not a horrible name. It's what they've added on to it since then that's just made it so much worse. This one, they just out of the box, horrible name. It's on the Pixel 8, it's called the Actua display, and in the Pixel 8 Pro, it's the Super Actua display. Actua, what does that mean? I don't know. That it's actually a good display, I don't know. But it's the dumbest name.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a Pokemon. I don't know. It's just
like the Pixel 8 is like the small Pokemon. The Pixel 8 Pro is the boosted one. The Super Actua.
Yeah.
And
actually, I guess just tacking Super onto the front of it is more of a Digimon thing than a Pokemon thing. Like usually the name changes completely with Pokemon when they evolve, but with Digimon, it's just like, oh, it's an Actua, and now it's a Super Actua. Ugh. Or maybe that's a Dragon Ball thing. I guess that's what they did. Oh, they're
either
Saiyan?
Way,
no, they're Super Saiyan.
Either way, it's lazy and awful naming, just in general.
Yeah. No, this is kind of like my favorite bad tech name of the year so far. So good job, Google.
Yes, that's the wrong award to be winning, but it's an award. We don't send out trophies like some people, sorry. But you're going to win that award, Google, for worst tech name of the year. Now, both of these phones, unfortunately, also went up in price this year. The Pixel 8 now starts at $699, which is $100 more than it was. And the Pixel 8 Pro is $999. But, spec for spec, these are still better prices than both Apple or Samsung. So,
Yep.
I gotta hand it to them there. It is, yes, $100 more, but you're getting again, spec for spec, much better prices.
Yeah. Well, it's just really stupid because last year Apple raised the price of the iPhone. This year they raised the price of the Pro iPhone, and that enabled Google to raise the price of both their normal Pixel and the Pro Pixel and still look good by comparison. Because it's still $100 less than the starting prices of either of Apple's phones. Like, what the heck is going on with the smartphone world at this day and age?
Yeah, it's fun, right? Fun, that's the word. Anyways.
Sure, I'm having such a good time.
Now, if you can pre-order these phones, and they are doing trade-in offers, which aren't horrible. I was just curious. So with my phone, I've got a iPhone 13 Pro Max. I can get $650 from Google, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's decent. Yeah.
And they're also offering free things with both of these phones. So with the Pixel 8, if you pre-order, you can get the Pixel Buds Pro for free, which are $200. So that's decent. If you get the Pixel 8 Pro, you could get the Buds Pro for $200 or the Watch 2 for free, which is $350. So if it were me, if I were pre-ordering a Pixel 8 Pro, I would get the watch so I could sell it because it's worth more. But that's me.
Valid.
So I mean, that's not horrible. If you're going to pre-order it, that's what I would do. Get one of the free things, trade in your phone so you can get a little bit of a discount. And that's not bad. Also, I would probably recommend buying it from Google. I mean, you can get deals from carriers. Those are available, but those deals come with not a contract because they don't do contracts anymore, but just stupid things that carriers always do. They might be slightly better deals price-wise, but are they really?
Yeah.
In the long run, not really.
Yep. Well, and I'll just go ahead and say it, sitting on the perspective of an Apple observer in this day and age, maybe be careful about pre-ordering hardware. It's just, the iPhone's not been having a great year, and I don't know. I'm just a little skeptical. Pre-order at your own risk.
Yeah. Based on hands-on videos, I'm more optimistic about the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro than I was about the iPhone 15. And I also more optimistic about these new Pixel phones than I was about the Pixel 7 or Pixel 6. So that's good. But again, reviews haven't come out yet. So just be aware of that. If you want to pre-order, that's fine. I mean, we always say don't pre-order. I usually still always do for dumb, who knows why, but I usually do.
I mean, you get pre-order bonuses. I get it.
And that's why I've done it in the past, because it saves me money in some ways. But also, you can wait till Black Friday, and these phones will be on sale for sure on Black Friday.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there's one feature on the Pixel 8 Pro that I failed to mention. They have a new temperature sensor on the back of the phone, which currently they are still waiting on FDA approval for it to measure skin temperature. So technically it doesn't do that yet, but you can take temperatures of other devices. Like, it's interesting. The way that this works is you open it up, you click on the temperature sensor, and it gives you a list of things that it can do. So you click on whatever it is that you want to do. So you have to click on the product that you want to measure first.
Yeah.
And then you have to hold it within a couple inches of whatever you're measuring the temperature of, and it'll give you some sort of reading. How accurate that is, I don't know. Again, we don't have reviews out yet. I'm imagining that people are going to get, actual thermometers out and test these things to compare. So we'll see how accurate it is.
Guaranteed.
The downside, though, again, is you have to be within a couple inches of whatever it is that you're measuring the temperature of. So if you want to measure something that's really hot, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, don't do that. That's if nothing else, it's gonna damage your phone.
Yes, that's best case scenario, and that's
Right. Exactly.
damage your phone. Hopefully you don't get burned. Again, this is I don't fully understand. This was they were probably finalizing stuff on this phone during COVID, and they're like, "Oh, this would be a great thing to have." It's like, well, you didn't even get FDA approval before the launch of the phone. So,
yeah. I will say that liquid, like you can just say like I would like to measure the temperature of like a hot liquid or a warm liquid or something like that. And if you were to just set it to that and then hold it a couple of inches away from your skin, that's probably close enough. Like like it could probably still take your temperature. They just can't say it's taking your temperature because they don't have FDA approval. That's technically a health device that has to be regulated.
Or better yet, go online and find a $30 infrared temperature like thermometer. That you can hold, that you can take the temperature of something from a foot away, 2 feet, and it's actually accurate.
Oh, my favorite thing that's going to happen with this is that some flat earther is going to take it and try and use it to measure the temperature of the sun. And then they'll post some video debunking, the existence of the globe because it says that it's like, 30 degrees or something like that. Well, yeah, it's because it's cold outside and you're just pointing it at the air. Like what? What were you expecting? Anyways, it's a weird addition to the phone. It feels kind of like the LiDAR sensor that Apple added to the Pro iPhones, except less useful.
I was going to say the LiDAR sensor is actually useful. I've used it and it works,
Yeah. It's a weird addition, but okay.
Very. But okay, Google. You did a good thing.
Just Google things.
Yeah, that's something. But like I said beforehand, the biggest thing when it comes to Google phones is always the software side of things and the AI stuff. So let's talk about some of the stuff that is going to be coming with these phones that will probably eventually come to other phones down the line. Just they always start exclusive to Pixel phones because they have to have some sort of selling feature beforehand. The first one is improved call screen. So, listener, if you don't know or don't remember what call screen was, it was a way that if someone's calling you, you can have Google Assistant answer the phone for you, and you can, if the person doesn't hang up, they can respond to it, and you can kind of get an idea of who's calling you, and you can accept or reject that phone call. I used it all the time when I had a Pixel phone. It was really nice. But now with this improved call screen feature, there's a more natural sounding voice, which is definitely going to be beneficial because it definitely sounded like an assistant robot type voice beforehand. And people probably just heard that and immediately hung up because we know what that sounds like. We're just like, oh, it's not a person. Beep, we're gone. This one sounds more normal. It does still say that this is a Google Assistant answering the phone call for so-and-so, and asking certain questions. But it does sound more normal. And also, it does give you, depending on if the person responds, like they can say who they are and why they're calling, it will give you different responses to choose from that the assistant can say for you. So you can basically have a conversation with someone without having to talk to them, which, for some people, that's going to be kind of nice.
No, that sounds awesome.
So, like, one example I saw is someone that wanted to leave a package, like UPS was calling, which that doesn't ever happen. But UPS was calling and it's like, hey, I've got a package for so-and-so that needs to be signed for. Do you want me to leave it without signature or not? And it gave a response of like, just leave package. So it's like, okay, it's knowing what's happening. So you can click on that response and the voice will respond. They said you can just leave the package on the doorstep. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can't see that ever going wrong. I'm sure it'll be
Right.
fine.
I mean, again, that's if the person actually responds to this voice in the first place,
Right.
and then you are also there to, respond.
Yeah. And that's assuming that, UPS is going to actually call you about getting a signature. No, they don't. They just slap that stupid piece of paper on the door and
Without even knocking to see if you're home, most cases.
Yeah. Like they walk up, they like kind of tap on the door twice and then start filling out the piece of paper before
Yeah.
like yeah. It's obnoxious. UPS do better.
Please.
Anyways. Back
Anyways,
to Google.
so there's that new feature. They are also adding something called Audio Magic Eraser. So, you know what Magic Eraser is, where you go into a photo, you can take a subject out of the photo, it kind of fills in the background-ish. This is kind of like that, but audio-wise. So the video that they showed was a video of a baby making some really cute, funny noises, but it also had in the background a dog barking, which was really annoying. And they were able to take the dog barking out of the video, and so it was just the video of the baby making whatever noises it was doing. Really nice feature. Now, again, how accurate that's going to be, we will see. But I like that feature a lot.
Conceptually, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially like if you're taking a video in a place that's like either really windy or just a crowded area that's pretty loud, you could potentially take out some of that background noise and just make it so they can hear you or, what you wanted to hear, which is really beneficial. Another really cool feature they called Best Take. Now, this is a photo feature that, we all have this experience where we take a picture for somebody in a group, or we want someone to take a picture for us. And generally, if you're a decent person, you're going to be taking more than one photo, hoping that one of those photos turns out good enough. Because if you're the person that's taking the photo and you only take one, that's just rude. You need to take at least 2 or 3, if not more.
Yep. This is just basic etiquette.
Yes, please. But what this does, if you do that, if you take multiple photos, and unfortunately, none of these photos, everyone is looking at the camera or smiling or something, especially if you have kids, it's never going to happen. What this does is it'll look at those multiple photos that you took and it doesn't do this automatically. You have to go and make it work, but it can give you the best face for each person in the photo. So you can actually make it seem like everybody was looking and smiling at the camera at the right time, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't remember this, but apparently this is something that surprisingly was on a Windows phone 10 years ago. The Lumia 1020 had
that thing.
this exact feature.
Man.
Like they had a marketing video and everything for it, and it was literally exactly this. Well, Microsoft did one thing right, just really long time ago.
There you go. There were good reasons to buy Windows phones. Wes, you were right this whole time.
Well, yeah.
There were also apps on all of the other phones, so that was nice, I suppose.
I guess if you were only using that phone for a camera, then okay, that was the reason to buy it.
There you go.
It's funny, I did actually have a conversation today about Windows phones. But we don't need to go into that. All right. Those features are coming to both Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. Really nice. And I imagine that the Audio Magic Eraser and the Best Take feature will probably come to other phones that have Google Photos down the road. It might be a year or 2 down the road, but I think it eventually will happen because that's generally what does happen. A lot of these features are like the Magic Eraser in Photos originally was just a Pixel exclusive, and then it came to other Android phones, and then it came to any phone if you were paying for Google One subscription. So I can use that stuff on my iPhone because I have a Google One subscription. So that's really nice. Now these next features are going to be exclusive to the Pixel 8 Pro, at least at launch. Again, these features could down the road come to other phones. But right now, it's not even on the Pixel 8, just the Pixel 8 Pro. Well, this feature in specifically probably won't. They're saying they're adding Pro controls to the camera, which, thank you, Google, because, I mean, any decent camera app should have some sort of Pro controls. Whether or not it's a Pro phone should have these controls, because some people want these controls. You don't need to have them just right there in the front for everybody to use. You can have them in settings. That's fine. Just offer them, please. Because some people like that. Not everyone, not most people, but there are people. I am one of those people that would like these controls because I know how to operate a camera. Give me these features on a phone. Come on. At least not in a third-party app, because you can get third-party apps that have all these controls. But
That's true.
I want to use just the regular camera app on my phone. That's the easiest. Come on.
Yeah.
Apple. Anyways. So that is coming to the Pixel 8 Pro. Pro controls in the camera app. Really nice. Now, features there. The first thing that they mentioned was video boost. Now, what this does is it basically initially, like the video boost, you do have to enable this before you take a video. It's not just something that's going to work right out of the, or like you make a video and it's just a video boost video. No, you have to hit video boost for it to work, but it'll give you a better like HDR type video right off the bat. But the biggest thing here is once you upload this video to Google Photos, then they can do even more stuff. Like this stuff has to be done on Google servers because of what it does. It just is very processor intense type stuff. What they're doing is every frame in a 4K 30 FPS video goes through Google's HDR Plus image pipeline. So everything that they do to a regular photo, they will do to every single frame in a 4K video, which is freaking ridiculous.
Yep. It's a lot of compute.
And that's why they are not doing this on device, because man, that would just take a ton. Like it would only work if like you are doing literally nothing on your phone and it is charging. And even then it would take all night to process one 10-second video.
I was going to say, like, in order to do that even remotely real time, we're talking like desktop class NVIDIA 4080 or 4090 graphics cards, like that's what it would take.
So that makes sense why this is something that after you've uploaded it to Google Photos, they take it to their servers and do all this processing. And then when it's done, they send you a notification saying, hey, your video boost video is now available to watch. And basically like I said, what it does is it really HDRifies the crap out of this video and makes it really, really good quality. Not that it was bad quality before that. It was one thing that they mentioned. Video is getting even better on Pixel phones, which thank goodness, because it's been okay the last couple years, but initially it was just not great before. Like the Pixel 1 through 4 had okay video, but not great. The thing that Pixel has always been good at is photos, not videos. But with the Pixel 6 and 7, they got better. This one's supposed to get even better. And with this feature specifically, will be really fantastic. But again, it takes uploading it to Google Photos, them doing their thing, and then sending it back. Also, one thing they mentioned with Video Boost, and they didn't say, this is something that they didn't say has to go to the cloud to do. So this is probably one of those things that just enabling Video Boost will do, is it basically puts night sight into your video, which is really good because night sight photography on both iPhone and Pixel has been really good. So adding that to your video is going to be really nice. And the examples that they showed were really good. Again, we're going to have to wait till testing comes out. People, get reviews on these things, and we'll see how it actually showcases. Downside is this Video Boost feature is supposedly coming in a feature drop in December. So We still won't know about this until later on. And
Yeah.
that's if it even comes. Like, there's been multiple videos that's like, don't pre-order a phone based on things that aren't coming or that are coming later, because those
Yes,
things may or may
that's
not
very
come,
true.
you know?
Well, as I recall, Magic Eraser, like they announced that ages before it finally launched.
Yeah, that was one of those things that, like, they showcased on the phone at the event, and then it came out about 4 or 5 months after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just kind of like that. So I expect it, where they actually did give us a date. They said in December. I expect it to actually come at some point in time. Whether it comes in December, we'll see. But I do expect it to actually be an update coming to Pixel 8 Pros down the line. But with this thing as well, this one especially, where it's doing stuff on the cloud, I don't see why this necessarily has to be a Pixel 8 Pro exclusive feature. The only thing I can think of is if the higher end cameras, because the two cameras are slightly different, and the Pixel 8 Pro has a 48 megapixel sensor on top of the 50, whereas the other one has a 50 and a 12. So I don't know if it's that or the higher RAM or what that has to be doing certain things. But I could see down the road this coming to other phones because it is a cloud-based processing thing. So we shall see. It might be a year or two down the road, but it would be nice if eventually it does come to other phones or just Google Photos in general.
Yep.
Another feature that is exclusive to the Pixel 8 Pro is an improved Magic Eraser. And basically what this is it uses on-device generative AI, which is really nice that it is on-device. But so you can, like, what Magic Eraser does. You can take little bits of the photo and take it out. But this one, you can do bigger selections of that photo. So, like, say there's a car behind you that you don't want there. You can take the car out, and it will use generative AI to recreate the background that may or may not have been there before.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, right now, it kind of just takes the pixels around the area and blurs them together to make something that looks decent.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't work really well with big objects. It works better with things that are farther in the background or small. So this should be nice.
Current Magic Eraser is basically the self-healing brush in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Like it cuts a piece out and then it uses the healing brush to try and fill in that gap, which it's been working well in Photoshop for decades at this point. Like they've been improving that algorithmic photo enhancement over decades. But generative AI is like a quantum leap forward in that same technology. So being able to use that to fill in the gaps in the background is like really cool. It's cool that it's running on the phone. I think that's the neatest part about it to me.
And that's the main reason why this is a Pixel 8 Pro exclusive, because not necessarily, they have the same processor with the G3 tensor chip, but the 8 Pro has more RAM, which is what's going to be beneficial here with the on-device stuff. So that does make some sense. Again, this is down the road as this gets better, will probably come to other devices because they just got to work on that generative AI stuff and make it work better on lower end processors. Yeah. But eventually it probably will come to other phones.
They may also have a version that winds up coming to Google Photos in the cloud.
Right.
Like that could be a future thing as well. So
yeah, and it could be one of those things like how Magic Eraser is on my phone, where if I'm a Google One subscriber, I can get to it. So that's what I'm hoping for. As someone that doesn't have a Pixel phone, I wouldn't mind having some of this stuff down the road. Google, please. Especially on an iPhone that has a processor that can definitely handle this stuff on device. Even.
Yeah,
I don't see that ever happening, but it could. But along with that generative AI, they mentioned how it's a custom generative AI on device thing that's going on, which makes sense. But along with that, they also announced another feature called Zoom Enhance. So all of you people that have watched cop shows forever, where they always zoom in on a thing and they can enhance it. That doesn't actually happen. But on a Pixel phone now, it kind of does. So the example that they gave was zooming in on the Golden Gate Bridge, and the main picture was really pixelated and stuff. And then they used on-device generative AI to clean it up and make it look really good. Which with something like the Golden Gate Bridge, there's lots of data on what that actually looks like. They can do that.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to things like your face, maybe not so much. But
probably not going to work as well.
With certain landmarks and certain types of things that you're taking pictures of, it will work to an extent. But and that is also coming in December. So don't get your hopes up that it will be there. Just know that it might be coming later on. And that, again, is also exclusive to Pixel 8 Pro. But those are the new photo and video features coming. I'm actually really excited about those. And that leads me to a question that I have is, do these Pro exclusive features make it worth upgrading to the Pro phone for the average person? I'm not so sure.
I would vote no. I think that the average consumer, if they're going to buy the Pro Pixel, will be doing so because the screen is bigger, brighter, and has, more nuance to its refresh rate. Right. I think it's the screen is the reason the average consumer would consider upgrading to the Pro phone over the Pixel 8. Because quite frankly, at $700, the Pixel 8 is a pretty darn good deal for a flagship phone.
Yes.
It's got a lot of great features, a lot of cool software features and stuff that would appeal to the average consumer, and it's at a really good price. I think that the Pro does have some more cool software features and stuff like that, but I don't think that that's the stuff that's going to sell it to the average consumer. I think that the average consumer would buy it for the screen just being better, and that's probably about it.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I mean, if the slightly above average consumer may see that it does have the slightly better camera, like it's got the extra camera, the telephoto camera, which is a nice thing to have, and then also the slightly better wide angle or ultra wide angle camera, which is going to be better. So yes, I agree that it's going to be the display and potentially the camera, just the camera sensors in general, that is going to get the average person buying, because I mean, these features aren't even going to be there at launch. And so
true.
Other than like the Pro controls, which the average person's not going to use, and a couple other little things, like the improved Magic Eraser is going to be on there when it launches, which that might sell for some people. I mean, they advertise regular Magic Eraser very heavily. So they're going to advertise this like crazy, but
they already are. I keep seeing it everywhere.
That is fair. But again, I don't necessarily think that the average user is going to care as much about video boost, because they have to enable it, for one. And two, it's like, oh, I've still got to wait. Who knows how long for it to actually process and get done? Maybe I don't care so much. And then the zoom enhance, I mean, that's kind of a gimmicky feature.
Yeah.
That people are like, oh, look what my phone can do. And then you're never going to use it again. So,
exactly.
So I agree that I don't necessarily think that these Pro exclusive features are quite what's going to be the selling point. They're going to advertise the crap out of these features, but that's not what's going to sell the Pro phone to the average user. I still think that the average user should just buy the regular 8, because it's more than good enough. Especially that display is really good at 120 hertz and 2000 peak, nits. Really nice.
Yep.
So that's
Apple.
Yeah. Yes. A couple more things that they did mention is the Google Assistant can now summarize and or read articles for you. The summarize thing is what's really cool. And this, they didn't mention this being exclusive to either phone, so I'm assuming it's coming to both phones. but I don't know for sure. But if it's a really long article that you just don't either have time to read or don't want to read, you can click on you can open up Google Assistant, and then a little button at the bottom will say summarize. It'll read it for you and give you a summary of that article, which is really cool. And also, I do believe it could do this before, but the reading article. So if you don't have time to sit there and read it, it can read it for you, and you can just listen to the article.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that was a thing before, but they mentioned it at the same time. So
Right.
pretty cool. But then the thing that got the biggest cheer from the whole event was right there here at the end. And it's the rumor that we talked about last week. 7 years of OS upgrades. And that's not just in OS updates. That's OS upgrades, Pixel feature drops, and security updates. 7 years, which freaking awesome. Good job, Google.
Yeah. And I think, in terms of security updates, that's fairly on par with what Apple gives you.
Right.
You'll get security updates for 6-7 years with pretty much any iPhone.
Yeah.
But in terms of OS, feature drops and stuff like that, that's industry leading.
Yeah.
But as every single tech coverage site, YouTube video, everyone has been saying over the past week, grain of salt, this is Google. They might kill the Pixel before this happens. We were joking about last week on the podcast, everyone agrees that Google does kind of have a history of killing stuff. They have not spent a ton of time building up trust with their customers for having long-term reliable stuff, which it's just par for the course. And so far, the Pixel line has been doing better than most of their stuff outside of Gmail and Google search. Pixel's been sticking around. It's been doing pretty well for a while. Okay, so we have some hope, all right? But at the same time, they also continue to just kill stuff off in the background that people are using and rely on. And so it's is this going to be one of those things? Maybe. Who knows? It's kind of an exciting game you get to play when you buy stuff from Google.
Yep. Now, the one hope that I do have for Pixel in general is Google has been using Pixel as for lack of a better term, a testing ground for this AI stuff that they've been working on. And AI is that's been their thing for the last 5 or 6 years at least. And so they kind of use the Pixel phones as that testing ground before they launch it to the general public for Android or iOS, So that's why I could see Pixel why it's lasted as long as it has, and 2 could last 7 more years or more, because that's what they're using, because they don't have any other hardware that actually sells to do that with. Because that's true. They don't make any Chromebooks anymore because they didn't sell, and they barely made another tablet that's probably not going to sell. So they need something that does sell to, test this stuff on. So that's where I could see the Pixel stuff still surviving, because they need something to test this on before releasing it to just everybody. Yep.
And it's, it's worth noting that Google does have some products that are extremely reliable, but they also have a history of kind of killing stuff off. And somebody, one of the videos that I watched made a point that I thought was pretty good. They drew the comparison between Google, who are constantly shifting and changing focus, and that does mean that you get a lot of new and exciting stuff coming out of Google pretty constantly. It's just this new experimental stuff. We've got these really cool ideas. We're rolling with it. Look at all this fun stuff that we've got going on. Apple, not so much. Apple tends to be extremely dull and conservative in comparison. But when Google comes across a hard time with something, they kill it. They cancel it. Apple, they stick with it to a fault. And then when they finally do make a change, say, we're going to switch the entire processor architecture of all of our computers from x86 with Intel to our own custom-made ARM stuff because we just don't like Intel's roadmaps and their processors all run way too hot. They do that in a way that honestly impacts as few people as possible, right? Like they understand that they have to maintain the trust that they've built up with their customer base in order to continue to sell stuff the way that they have been selling stuff. And so they'll take it very slow, do it very conservatively. And it takes, they didn't actually hit their 2-year goal for updating everything, by the metrics of people who can count. They still claimed they did because calendar year is not the same as literal actual 365-day periods, but whatever. And so they're two very different approaches to things, and you would tend to end up with a lot more boring crap as an Apple customer, but at least it's a platform you can rely on. Whereas Google, a lot more exciting stuff, but sometimes these platforms just Stadia themselves off into the distance and go to the farm. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, Google has made a promise here that is outstanding, and we really could stand to see more of this sort of thing in the industry as a whole. And hopefully they follow through on it. It's just, that's the question. With a lot of other companies, if they made this promise, it would be like, wow, they'll follow through on that. But Google, we're not sure.
Yeah. It's always a guessing game when it comes to Google.
It is.
Which is both exciting and frustrating.
Right. Time. Yes. It's like, it's kind of fun. It's also kind of annoying.
Yeah. Now, 2 things that were quote unquote announced, but not at this event, but in along with this event. So Android 14 did finally come out to the general public, like the full on ready to go version, which was a couple weeks late, but that's fine. Delay things until they're ready. Gamer developers, come on.
Very true.
Google did that, which is fine. So now it is available for, as long as your phone has the update. All Pixel phones will have the update. Samsung phones will have the update relatively soonish, and other companies, who knows. But that is now out. And along with that, they did put out a new Bug Droid statue on Google Campus, which, so as you know, listener, if you've been listening to us for a while, Google has gone away from naming their Android versions some sort of sweet treat like it was in the past. But they do still have these internal code names. And the one for Android 14 was Upside Down Cake, because they are at the letter U when it comes to Android versions. And the statue for this isn't necessarily Upside Down Cake, but it is an upside down bug droid with with what looks like a basketball jersey type shirt on that says 14. And it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's one of the better statues that they've had. And it's great. It's great.
Yep. Bug droid doing a handstand.
Yeah. And then the other thing, this has more to do with the event, but along with those 7 years of OS upgrades for the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro, they are saying that they will include 7 years of spare parts to buy to replace on this phone. And they did mention that they've made it easier to replace the display, the battery, and other certain things. And they will probably work with iFixit like they have in the past.
Yeah.
So you can buy it directly from iFixit, buy the tools, and have instructions on how to do it. And that is fantastic. So good job, Google, on OS upgrades and parts upgrades, because that is just great.
Apple, if you want to brag about sustainability, this is how you do it.
This is how you do it. Don't just don't just talk about it. Actually do something.
Yeah. It's like, it's great. It's great that your new products use less carbon getting, made, but like, it would be even better if your new products could last for more than 3 years. 4 years. Like, it would be really cool to be able to like fix up old iPhones and keep them running for a decade and stuff like that without it being a huge chore.
That would be nice.
If only. If only.
Yeah. That's the Made by Google event for 2023.
All right. That is great. It's good stuff. I think that these new
Yeah.
Pixels look pretty cool.
Oh, one thing I failed to mention.
Ooh.
This is awful of me. The new colors of these phones, because I actually like these colors quite a bit. So the Pixel 8 comes in rose, hazel, or obsidian black. So that's fine. But the best ones are the Pro. Surprisingly, that never happens. The best ones, the obsidian, which is your black phone, porcelain, which is like a slightly whitish gold color, looks pretty good. But the best is called Bay, which, San Francisco, the Bay, ocean is what they're going for, because it's like a Columbia blue, baby blue color. Really pretty phone.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the phone that I have from the iPhone 13 that came in that Pacific blue, I think they called it.
Yeah.
So it's very similar, and I really like it.
Way better colors than Apple's Pro phones this year.
Oh my gosh, so much better.
Way better.
So much better.
Like, I don't know if it was the switch to titanium that we have to blame for this, but Apple's Pro phones this year, colors are really uninspired.
It's very true.
Oh, man. Well, good. Good work, Google. Pulled it out. Made it look good. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to some other tech news that happened this past week quickly, listener. We're going to start with some Apple stuff, okay? This is a big deal. The Series 0 Apple Watches, so Apple released the original Apple Watch lineup, and then about, 8 months later, they released the Series 1, which was pretty much the same hardware with some changes to the strap design and then a different pricing lineup for them and stuff like that. But because the Series 0 was, they stopped making it so quickly after they started making it and transitioned to the Series 1, it has now been marked obsolete. All of the original Series 0 Apple Watches, because this just happens automatically at Apple whenever something has no longer been manufactured for 7 years, I think it is. So it's been more than 7 years since the Series 0 ended their production run, and this includes all of the $10,000 to $17,000 edition models of the Apple Watch. Those are now all obsolete. So what this means, they haven't been supported by watchOS for a very long time. It's been since watchOS 5 that the Series 0 watches were no longer supported. They haven't been getting software updates for years, but this means that you can no longer go to Apple for any replacement parts. Replacement screens, replacements for the digital crown, nothing, okay? If this phone breaks, it's broke, you're done. My question, because there's been a lot of hot takes online about this, about how oh, my $17,000 watch, I'm never going to be able to get this repaired again. Did anyone who actually bought one of those $10,000 to $17,000 watches actually wear it past the first year? Do you think a single person did?
I want to know. Okay, two things. I think that the $10,000 to $17,000 edition watches were obsolete the moment they came out of the box.
That's true.
And two, did anybody actually buy one of those? I know they gave them to multiple celebrities to wear.
They did give them to a few. From what I understand, they gave one to Beyonce.
Yeah.
And then she bought 2 more because she wanted all the colors.
Oh, gosh.
And there were a few people that did stuff like that, from what I understand, where it was celebrities that were given one, and then they're like, ooh, but I want the rose gold one. And so they got that. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It seems to me that this was a fashion thing more than it was a piece of technology.
Well, that's how they started with the watch. When they first came out with the watch, it was not a fitness watch by any means.
No.
They did not want that at all. They showcased this thing at a fashion show in Paris. Were they in Paris? I can't remember.
It was in Paris, yeah.
And that's where they first really showcased this thing. They wanted this to be a fashion first product, and they learned really quickly, no, that was a dumb idea. And so that's why they stopped selling the solid gold versions of this thing, which were so dumb to begin with anyways.
They learned it basically instantly when all of the Series 0 watches they sold were the sport band.
Yeah.
Not just because it was cheapest, but because everyone was like, well, yeah, but if I do sweat, I don't want it to ruin my watch band. So they got that one, and then they're like, oh, hey, this heart tracking thing is actually pretty cool. And oh, look at these health features and stuff like that. They pivoted really fast. It helps that was about the time that Johnny Ive was starting to leave the company. But yes, he wanted to be a fashion thing before anything else. He was the one who insisted on the $10,000 plus edition models even existing. And what a stupid idea. That was just a dumb, like, Johnny Ive is a good designer. In terms of industrial design, he has had a large impact on technology design, and a lot of it has been good. But I mean, he's far from perfect, and he has made a lot of really stupid products in the past, and that's one of them. One of the worst, I would say. So, fare thee well, Series 0 Apple Watch. I don't think anybody is honestly going to miss it. It is kind of funny to laugh about the fact that, yes, here's a $10,000 thing that is just worth its weight in gold, and that's it. But, I mean, that's still thousands of dollars worth of gold, so who cares?
Yeah, I mean, worst case, take your watch. If you bought a gold edition model of this watch, take it to a pawn store and get your money's worth out of the gold, or so. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you probably could get quite a bit for that. Okay. In other Apple news, so we talked at length, listener, in our last podcast about how the iPhone 15 has had a few issues.
All the issues.
Since it launched. One more came out over this past week. There's been quite a few reports of the 15 Pro phones showing burn-in on their displays, right? So obviously this is a different display than is on the regular 15 because this is their ProMotion display. This uses an LTPO OLED display, and it is, it has different tuning requirements and different characteristics and stuff like that. This is not the first time they have used this display technology in a phone, though. The 14 Pro and the 13 Pro also use this display technology, as well as all of their watches since like the Series 5, I think. So, this is not like Apple's first run at using this type of display, and yet we are seeing burn-in issues where they have not traditionally had burn-in issues. It's possible that this is because the 15 Pro processor tends to run kind of redonkulously hot. And so far, none of the reports I have heard suggest that the burn-in is permanent, meaning that you can kind of reset the display and get rid of it over time. But just another issue getting piled on top of all the problems that the 15 and 15 Pro have been having. And so my question here for you, Landon, is this just that the first run of the 15 and 15 Pro were all lemons? Or is this like the whole lineup is fundamentally broken at the design level? Like, it's so hard to tell.
I really hope that this is just a first run type thing. But I mean, like we said last week, this is not something typical of Apple hardware where we get this many issues this fast.
Yeah.
So I mean, time will tell. We will know within 6 months if this is just a first, type thing, or if this is a iPhone 15 thing. And hopefully it's the former and not the latter, because man, if it's just a 15 issue, that sucks.
Yeah, a lot of very unhappy customers going to be coming from that. Yeah, there have absolutely been cases where first generation runs of products have just been lemons, and it's like, oh, whoops, that entire production run kind of sucked, and they change a QA process at the factory or something like that, and then everything after that first production run is fine.
Yeah, like, Note 7.
I mean, they had to make a design change to fix that one, though. That one was see, and that's the thing. Like, are we talking about something that is like, we've got some lemons, aka the first Retina 15-inch MacBook Pros. They had an issue with like the first 100,000 of those off the production line had issues with the display ribbon cables that would cause them to like wear over time, and the displays would like show all sorts of funky behavior and crap out. And Apple had a repair like thing for those models, right? If you brought those in with display issues, they basically just gave you a new MacBook Pro, no questions asked, you walked out the door. Or is this going to be is this going to be a butterfly keyboard situation where they're going to try and revise the thing several times, but just from a fundamental design level, it's just broken and there's no way to fix it. And we just have to wait until new iPhones next year.
And they're also never going to admit that it was wrong in the first place.
Right. Exactly. And it is, I don't know. It's hard to tell right now. Like, Apple has already released an iOS update that's supposed to help with the overheating issues. And from what I have read, it seems to have resolved it for some people, but other people are still seeing some really weird thermal behaviors. So, I don't know. Really big questions. That we're, like Landon said, we're not really going to know for sure for a few months at least.
Yeah, and one thing I would recommend, so I heard of this on a different podcast. I believe it was the iMore show. One of the hosts on that show used to work at an Apple store for a lot of years. And what she said to do is, depending on what your issue is, if it's something that's happening more often than it should be, take it into an Apple store within the first week or two of you buying the phone, or even first month maybe. Because a lot of times, especially with new devices like this, they will just give you a new product because Apple is looking to get these phones back in their hands to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Whether or not they replace it is, again, may or may not happen, but this early in the cycle, it's more likely that they will just give you a new one, and because they want yours to see, okay, why is this happening? How can we fix it? So worst case, go try that out. And worst case they can do is just say, no, we're not going to replace it. That's fine. It doesn't hurt to go in and try, because again, you could get a brand new one that may or may not have the same issues, but it's, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's really good advice. All right. So that's Apple. Good times as always. Gonna go ahead and move on to some general tech news. Meta, they're everyone's favorite evil corporation, and they came out this past week that they have been campaigning in the EU with multiple legislators in that body to try and get get a sense of whether or not they would be able to get acceptance if they were to. So this is trying to address the ongoing EU investigation as to the effects of targeted advertising on consumers, right? Meta makes all of their money via advertising. That's how they do that. And so they're trying to see whether or not they would be able to skirt legislation that would restrict their ability to target ads at like a government level, right? Apple's already taken some blows at them over this, the ability to restrict at a personal level them from targeting ads. The EU is talking about restricting it for everybody, regardless. You can't track people inside the EU for targeting advertisements and stuff like that. So they're trying to see if they can get around that by offering an ad-free subscription to Instagram and Facebook inside of the EU, which is it's a whole can of worms. I'm not going to open it. I personally think that that's just baffling, But I don't know, would you? Would you pay for a social media subscription? Like, is that a thing that anyone would voluntarily do? I'm struggling with that real hard, because maybe I just don't see any value to social media the way that it currently exists, because I don't. but like, oh.
Now, what I think about with this is YouTube offers a subscription model where you pay, I think, $5 a month and you get YouTube ad free. And
True.
I mean, Wes pays for that. So
Yes.
we know somebody that does. I know multiple people that pay for this because they say it's just a much better experience, which I don't pay for it, but I would agree that it probably would be, because ads on YouTube are just getting worse and worse. So
yes, that's true. That is
I
true.
do think that people would pay for this. Now, on a platform such as Facebook or Instagram, is it as beneficial as YouTube? No, I don't think it would be, because it's really easy to just scroll past those ads.
Right.
So I don't think it would be worth it unless it obviously always depends on the price. But for the fact that it's Meta doing this, it's not going to be, I don't even think it would be $5. I think it would be probably $8 to $10, because Zuck is a obnoxious person that wants all the money.
I think the prices that were kind of floating around was that individually, if you wanted to pay for like just Facebook or just Instagram, then it was going to be like $11 a month.
Ugh.
And that if you wanted to pay for both, it was going to be 15 or 16 or something like that. It was something like that. It was more than like $5 each, and then like $8 for both or something like that, which still wouldn't make sense to me, but people would do it. And I thought about YouTube, and I feel like the difference there is that with YouTube, the benefit is that I get to watch the content that I want to watch, which is why I'm on YouTube, without having to deal with ads. It's the same reason that, you would pay for originally the same reason you would pay for cable, because back in the day, that's what cable was. It was subscription TV, so you didn't have to watch ads. And then they added ads to it because freaking this is just, I don't know. We're just repeating history at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't, it's just the way you consume stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and the function of Facebook and Instagram are so different than at least how I consider YouTube to be. Because YouTube to me is, yes, it's technically a social media platform. It has social aspects to it, but it's more than that. It is a content consumption platform. Right? That's what it is to me. Instagram and Facebook are not that. Like, I get that they want to be that, but I don't think they have been successful in that regard.
No. I do have to make a correction. YouTube Premium is, at the moment, $13.99 a month. So it's not cheap, but
no,
what you're getting for that, like Caleb said, is much better. Like, content, just being able to bring in that content is a lot better than, because again, on Instagram or Facebook, it's really easy to just scroll on past those ads.
Yeah.
There's not ads. I mean, I don't want to put this out in the, into the internet where Zuck's probably
careful
listening.
What you say,
but
they're listening.
At the moment, there's not non-skippable ads in these places.
Right.
So that I don't fully, it's just a completely different way of interacting with media.
Yeah.
So
it is.
I don't know.
It is. And I think I think that this is probably more common than some people in the tech space might think. The idea that people are like, I don't care enough about what I'm doing on Facebook or Instagram to want to pay to get rid of ads. And I suspect that Meta knows this. I suspect that Meta doesn't think it's very common. And I don't even think the prices that they're quoting would necessarily make them as much money as just feeding people targeted ads. I think what they want to do is see if they can get the EU to agree that yes, if as long as you have this option for consumers, that's okay. You don't have to like get rid of targeted advertising. And then they're going to get rid of not having targeted advertising. Because currently on Instagram or Facebook, you can go into your personal settings, like security settings and stuff, and you can opt out of targeted ads. And you can restrict what they can track from you and stuff like that. I think they want to remove that.
Yeah.
I suspect they want to get rid of that crap so that they can force all of the advertising to be targeted advertising, which is honestly something that Reddit has been playing around with lately. And they're just looking for a way they can do that without getting like the legislature like ban hammer nailed over them in the European Union. So this is a really weird thing for them to be talking about, and quite frankly, just justifies why I deleted my Facebook account and
Yeah.
really ought to also delete my Instagram account. It's nothing. I'd ought to just like have a list of people's phone numbers, and when I want to catch up with them, I'll just text them and be like, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, tell me how's life," and that kind of thing. Because at this point, I'm not actually getting any social interaction from my social media. It's like, so what's the point?
Yeah. Zuck, what would have been a better idea for you is go back 10 years when you started all this really bad stuff that you've been doing, or further back probably, and just do it the way that Google has done it. Yes, they take our data, but they keep that data to themselves. They just sell other things for advertising.
Right.
Same thing that Apple does, but Apple just uses it for their own marketing purposes.
That's the key. They collect the data. They do not sell the data.
Yes.
What they sell is a bucket.
Right.
Like advertisers get a bucket and they're all like, I want this thing that I have here to go to everyone in this bucket. And Google's like, cool, we'll take care of it. Data never leaves their servers.
Yeah.
Whereas frickin' Facebook is over here selling it to Cambridge Analytica and that kind of thing. Anyways.
Yeah. So
good times.
If Facebook would have done that, they wouldn't be having this. Well, they'd probably still be having issues with the EU because everyone has issues with the EU. But
that's true.
It would be different issues with the EU.
Yes. And they would probably be easier issues to handle.
Yes.
Oh, good times. All right. Speaking of companies that have made all of their own problems, we're going to go ahead and move into some gaming right now. Really quick, I just want to mention Epic. We talked a little bit about them last week, about how they were laying off a bunch of people because they have been unsuccessful at making money the way that they thought they were going to make money. And we talked about one of the reasons why they were unsuccessful at making as much money as they thought, given the Apple lawsuit and the fact that they decided to start that off by getting kicked off of the App Store. Another way that they could have been, yes, to add to their idiocy, Tim Sweeney, back in the day, Unreal Engine, was made free for pretty much anybody to download and use because they wanted to be a household name, right? They wanted to get everybody familiar with Unreal Engine so that they would use that to make all of their games and stuff like that. They just wanted to become the standard. And honestly, that part has worked pretty well. There are a ton of games that use Unreal Engine, and generally speaking, the engine is really cool and capable of doing a lot of awesome stuff. However, this, the way that they worded this deal is that in order to make money off of Unreal Engine, you have to make a game, release the game to the public, and then sell more than $1 million worth of revenue from that game. Then Epic starts charging you a cut. Okay? That sounds great if the only thing that your game engine is being used for is making games. However, not sure if you're aware of this, listener, Unreal Engine is used for a heck of a lot more than making games.
Mm-hmm.
One of the high-profile things it has been used for is something called the volume, which is this really really sweet application of cinema technology that Disney has been using out the wazoo, starting out with The Mandalorian, but then also on every other one of their Star Wars projects and several of the other TV shows they have made for Disney Plus. It's just a big old room full of screens that they project the background of the scene onto, right? And those screens just show the background. It's not like a big green screen or anything like that. It's like, the actors are actually standing on location on an alien planet or on a spaceship or something like that. And they don't have to spend a bunch of money building sets, but they still give the actors something that they can actually interact with instead of just being a bunch of green fabric. So that's really cool. And it ended up in some pretty awesome stuff for these shows, being able to show something cool without having to spend a ton of money on it. And part of the reason that they were able to do it without spending a ton of money on it is because the volume uses Unreal Engine. The backgrounds are all built and rendered in Unreal Engine, and they use the Unreal Engine camera controls that, are baked into it because it's a video game engine, right? It's designed around camera controls. They just map those to a gyroscope attached to the actual pants camera so that they can control the parallax of the stuff in the background so it looks like an actual pants 3D world that the person is standing in. It's really cool technology. It's awesome. And Unreal Engine hasn't made a penny off of it. So, Epic, you made a few mistakes when you started this whole thing. I feel like they probably should have, as soon as The Mandalorian was a thing, gone to Disney and been like, hey guys, I see that you've been making a lot of headway with this new show that you've released here. Let's maybe chat a bit about that. Or honestly, they should have started revising their usage guidelines in that situation. It's like they don't need to change the gaming side of things. I think that it's quite generous of them to provide the engine for free until you've made more than $1 million off of the game before they start charging like a 5% cut of each sale. That's actually quite nice and very beneficial to the industry at large. I think you just need to maybe have a different set of rules for industries that are not video games.
Yeah.
So they're talking about maybe fixing some of that. I feel like this is a few years late, but I guess Tim was too focused on trying to win his argument with Apple to actually pay attention to whether or not his company was making any money. Turns out you can still go get free games off of the Epic Game Store. Just download them. The Epic Game Store hasn't turned a profit since they opened it. So that's fun.
Is anybody surprised by that?
No, honestly. Speaking of digital storefronts that turn a profit that the Epic Game Store would like to compete with, Steam is the thing. Overwatch 2 came to Steam a little while ago, listener. There's not a ton of news. Diablo 4 is also going to be coming to Steam. So Blizzard is moving down the line of thinking that we're going to port all of our least successful games over to Steam and hope that the reason that nobody is playing them is because they're on Battle.net, not because they're trash. Wes probably has stronger feelings about this than I do, but because I do not play Overwatch 2 and I have not bought Diablo 4, I'm still just pissed off at the way they handled Overwatch 2's campaign mode, and me and Blizzard are not on speaking terms right now. So we'll maybe follow up with Wes and get his thoughts on it next week. But just heads up, yeah, Diablo 4 also coming to Steam. And finally, speaking of Overwatch, actually, boy, I've had these things all tied together really nicely. The Overwatch League finals were this past weekend. Also, could be the final set of finals for the Overwatch League. Team owners are going to be voting here in the near future to decide whether or not the league is actually going to continue happening. Like they either need to vote in favor of a new set of operating procedures for the Overwatch League, or vote in favor of like a buyback from Blizzard for like team ownership and stuff like that. And if they vote for the second one, then essentially they just there's like a severance fee that they pay, and all the franchises shut down. And that's that. The Overwatch League is gone. Of the two, I suspect that the second is probably the most likely. I don't think that the Overwatch League survives the launch of Overwatch 2. I think that's what's going to happen. So,
Fun.
that's sad. But there you go. All right, listener. That's everything that I had. Unless Landon has one more thing.
No, I
Okay.
don't.
Well, in that case, I think that wraps us up for this week. Listener, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you coming to catch up on all the tech happenings this week with us. And we appreciate you, you know what, just being you. Good job, Steve. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. If you would like to support the podcast further, you can do that on patreon.com/callingallplatforms. If you would like to check in with us in other formats, you can find us on YouTube at Calling All Platforms Tech or Calling All Platforms Gaming. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do that via email at podcast@callingallplatforms.com, or on social media. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Calling All Platforms. And you can also just find us back here in the podcasting app of your choice next week. Until then, bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.